Hey, good morning, everybody. Rob here in Bakersfield, California on the 2013 Sportster 72, heading to work. And welcome to another Throwback Thursday. This week's episode is going to be about the little 17-year-old girl that got raped by 4 guys. I was working out of Eastern Division, the first morning watch on a relief squad, which meant I wasn't working a normal beat. I would fill in on other officers on their days off and such. And I was the first one to hit the streets, and the area I was going to be working was down near El Cajon Boulevard. I get a radio call to go and relieve a third watch unit, which is a graveyard unit, on a call of a possible 261, which is a rape, and meet them at the 7-Eleven store so that they can go back to the station and clock out because their shift was over. So I headed down there to the 7-Eleven, which was not even on the beat that I was covering. It was on the next beat south of me, which was actually in Central's division. And I meet up with the Central officers. I think it was an FTO and a trainee. The trainee was over talking to this young girl sitting on the sidewalk in front of the 7-Eleven crying. And I go up to talk to the FTO to find out what's going on. And he says he's not sure, but he thinks that the girl was raped by several guys and they dumped her off there at the 7-Eleven and left. But that she's so upset and crying that they can't really get a whole lot out of her. So I said, okay, I'll take over the call. And he thanks me, and I go over and introduce myself to her, and try to calm her down. And we get to talking. And she actually calms down a bit after a few minutes of me sitting there on the sidewalk next to her. Get down on her level so it makes her feel more comfortable instead of standing over the top of her in an overbearing position. And we're talking and everything. And I get her to come over and sit down in the front seat of the patrol car so we have a little more privacy. And not everybody's listening to the conversation, so she feels a little more comfortable. And anyways, to get to the story, she's 17. She lived with her grandmother. She had gone out Friday night after being told not to. She had snuck out of the house. She had been walking down the street, and these 4 black guys in the Chevy Impala had stopped and asked her if she wanted to ride, and she said sure. And then she got in the ride, and they were all smoking pot and drinking. And they asked her if she wanted to drink and smoke pot, and so she said sure, so she was drinking and smoking pot. And so then they asked if she wanted to go back to their house and party all night, and she did. Well, somewhere along the line through the night, after drinking a bunch of beers and smoking a bunch of pot, all 4 of these guys raped her. And after they were done with her, about 5 o'clock in the morning or so, I guess it was 5:30, somewhere along there, they took and loaded her up in the car and took her down to that 7-Eleven store and dumped her off in front of the 7-Eleven. And they went back home. Well, of course, she had no idea who they were. She did know that it was a very distinctive car. It was a 60s something Chevy Impala. I can't remember exactly what now. I think a 66 Impala, and if I remember right, it was white. Which, that was pretty distinctive model car. So I asked her, well, if, okay, I was going to take her up to the hospital to get a rape exam kit done and have a female officer meet me up there to stay with her until she could either, the female officer could then take her home or get a hold of grandma to come pick her up. So I got a hold of dispatch and I arranged to have a female officer meet me up at the hospital. And along the way on the hospital, I asked the girl, if she thought she could remember the way back to the house and point out the house. So we, we're driving around and stuff, and she did a pretty good job of leading me back to the house, and sure enough, there was the car sitting in the driveway of the house. So, that was all fine and good. Now we knew where the suspects lived in the house they took her to. So I took her on up to the hospital, met with the female officer up there, turned her over to the female officer so that they could get the vacant exam done. And I told her I was going to be doing the home report, so all she needed to do was just officer's report of 153 regarding the rape kit and impound that as evidence. And I get with her later on and give her the case number. And if she could either take the girl back to Grandma's house and explain to her what happened, or see if they can get a hold of Grandma to come and get her. And then, so I go back out, I get on the radio and have dispatch, have my sergeant meet me over on the TAC frequency, which is a private frequency that, we use for SWAT and detectives and so forth, so the public doesn't hear it. And I tell him what I got, and I tell him I'd, like to get what was called a telephonic search warrant, and get the squad together and go kick in that front door and arrest them guys and get all the evidence. So he says, okay, that's fine. So we stationed up an officer to watch the house, and I make the phone call to the attorney, the city attorney, and get on a three-way call with the on-duty judge for the weekend and explain to him what I got and everything. So the judge approves a search warrant over the telephone, so that's why they call it a telephonic search warrant. So now I got a search warrant. I go back over, get back a hold of my sergeant, tell him I got the telephonic search warrant. So he has all our guys get together over there about a block down the street from the house, and we stage up in the driveway of this house that has a concrete block wall so that nobody can see us, and we'll discuss what we're going to do. So we're going to go up there on foot. A couple of the guys are going to go to the back door, a couple of guys are going to go around the side to the other side and watch the windows. Me, the sergeant, and a couple other guys, we're going to go through the front door. So we get up there, knock on the front door, say, San Diego Police, search warrant, open the door. Get no response. And bang on the door again, a little louder. San Diego Police, search warrant, open the door, no response. So we kick the front door and the back door in and go charging in, guns drawn. Catch all four guys in bed, all zonked out from their night of partying. We arrest all four guys for kidnapping and rape. Cuff them up. The guys that were with them, they take them on out to the cars, take them on down to Central to meet up with the sex crimes detectives for questioning. And me and the sergeant and a couple other guys stayed there at the crime scene to collect all the evidence, which was, the bed linen for DNA and forensics. And while we're doing that, we discover, well, they have a marijuana pot grow operation going on at the house, so we confiscate all of that and add that charge onto them. And we also discover a bunch of counterfeit money laying around the house, which we could tie to about a half a dozen other cases along El Cajon Boulevard and University Avenue. So we add that onto the case. And after about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, collecting all the evidence we need for the rape case and the counterfeit case and the pot growing case, and getting fingerprints and all this kind of crap, we finish off and close up and hit the streets. And I end up going back to the station with several hours worth of reports to write and a huge amount of evidence to log into the evidence room, and I think I spent the next 3 hours writing up that report and logging in all the evidence, getting everything all done and everything, and finally got back out on the street, hit the streets just in time to finish up a couple hours of the rest of the day. And I got a attaboy for that case, which was the very first attaboy I ever got from that sergeant, because he didn't like me and I didn't like him. But he was pretty much forced to have to give me an attaboy on that and write me up a commendation for doing a good investigation and following through on that, because the lieutenant wanted it done. Because it's not very often that an officer can get a rape suspect, get her to open up to him, find out where the crime scene occurred, get a telephonic search warrant, go kick in the doors, arrest all the suspects, clear a bunch of counterfeit cases, clear a rape case, and a pot growing operation, all at one time. Now, for the rest of the story. About a month, 2 months down the road, get contacted by the city attorney's office. They've decided that they're not going to prosecute on the case. And, okay, I'm pissed off. I want to know why. Why aren't you going to prosecute this case? Well, it comes down to the fact that my 17-year-old witness is not going to be a very good witness, because she freely admits to going with them. So that kind of quashed the kidnapping part of the case. She freely admits to drinking beer and smoking pot with them and having sex with them. So it comes down to her word against their word, which they were claiming that she freely had sex with them, where she was claiming they forced her to have sex. So it was the four of them against her as to who was telling the truth. And the only thing they could really get them on would be statutory rape, because she was under 18. But since she didn't tell them she was under 18 and they assumed she was over 18, they weren't going to try prosecuting on that, because the defense attorney would just tear the whole case apart, and it was going to be a big waste of time and money. So the whole goddamn case got thrown out. So since the kidnapping and the rape case got thrown out, so did the pot growing case and the counterfeiting case, because all the evidence regarding those two cases were, that evidence was found in direct correlation to the search warrant for the kidnapping and rape. So it's what they called, fruit of the poison tree. You can't use evidence from one case from another case if they weren't going to prosecute on that case, and that evidence was going to all be thrown out. So the whole goddamn thing got thrown out. Now for the third part of that story. Okay, those four guys thought they were something else, because they got away with it. They got released, weren't going to get charged or nothing, right? Well, about a month later, I'm back on rotation, back on that same deep. And guess what? I catch them four guys out driving around, drinking beers, open containers, smoking pot. I pull them over, I arrest all four of them. And while going through the car for the evidence, collecting the open beer cans and the joints and all that crap, I find a hand grenade. So they also get charged with that. So they eventually did get arrested and charged for a crime. Not necessarily the first crime, but for another crime. They got charged for what? Driver got charged for DUI, and passengers all got charged with possession of open containers, smoking pot, being under the influence, controlled substance, possession of a hand grenade, and I had their car impounded. So that wasn't as good as getting them for kidnapping and rape and counterfeit and growing marijuana, but it was better than nothing. I hope you all enjoyed my story. It did have a happy ending as far as I'm concerned in the end for me. Not for the 4 suspects and not for the poor girl that got raped. I'm sure she had, well, she had a lot of problems to begin with anyway, living with grandma and using drugs, drinking, and so on and so forth. But hopefully she straightened her life out, I don't know. Hit the like button if you want, give me some comments if you want, and subscribe and come back again next week for another thrilling episode of Throwback Thursday. Bye-bye and see y'all later.